Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. So much to discuss when it comes to the FBI, but the news this morning is that FBI Director Christopher Wray is relenting. He's going to actually comply with a subpoena from the House Oversight Committee. Oh, gee, thank you.
Thanks. That's nice.
To provide a document with specific allegations that Joe Biden accepted a bribe from a foreign national. The sort of rumor is this has to do with Ukraine. Of course, the prosecutor he helped to depose, and the son with the Burisma board seat, and so on and so forth. We don't know that, but that's what's being bandied about. Anyway, he was initially, said, well, you can come look at the document, but I'm not going to give you a copy. And that wasn't good enough. He was still potentially under threat of a contempt proceeding. So this morning he's relented and he's going to produce that document. Whether that document has any proof beyond an allegation, don't know. That's why you want to see the document. And if there is not evidence, then you use that as the basis to potentially investigate to see if there is any evidence available that would substantiate a claim. We don't know. We don't know. So that's one matter. And the other matter is this reputational rehabilitation tour that former FBI Director Jim Comey has been on the last few days, hitting the primetime lineups at CNN and MSNBC to do both image repair.
And to act like a victim and to sell a book.
To do both image repair for himself as well as for those networks and those hosts on those primetime lineups who were party to the last 7 years of Jim Comey and Andy McCabe and the senior leadership of the FBI and elsewhere, propagating a fraud on the American people. And this is some of what we've heard from Comey over the last several days.
Do you acknowledge perhaps that some mistakes were made along the way?
Oh, definitely. And they were found 4 years ago by the Inspector General. So there's nothing new in this new document.
What were some of those mistakes from your point of view?
Oh, that the FBI didn't communicate clearly the status of certain sources. They didn't double check certain information before putting it in a court application for a foreign intelligence wiretap, and a bunch of others.
And so do you believe now, as some of these politicians call for defunding of the FBI, that has been corrected and that now the procedures are in place to avoid those kind of mistakes in the future?
I think so. But in complex investigations, there's always going to be mistakes. It doesn't mean the FBI is incompetent, honest, and independent.
So, Director, with some distance now from your time there with that investigation and everything that came into that 2016 election, are there things that you wish you had done differently?
Oh, plenty. I mean, plenty of small things. In the main, I think the FBI did it in the right way during a very difficult time in 2016.
In the main, there's nothing to see here to the extent there is anything to see. It was unearthed 4 years ago. There's nothing new here, nothing that would undermine a substantive belief that the FBI is apolitical, independent, and professional. So let's just move on to demagoguing Trump and the Republican Party in advance of 2024, because I don't want to really talk about the Durham report, and I don't want to be probed on the actual findings, and I know Willie Geist won't do it, and I know Gloria Vanderbilt's kid won't do it, which is why I'm on their programs. So let's focus on Trump as a threat to democracy. The Republican Party is a cult, and the American people need to deliver them a strong rebuke in 2024 and beyond to preserve the independence, professionalism, and integrity of the FBI. Wonderful. Wonderful. Everybody's playing their role on those shows. It's fun to watch the choreography. For more on this, Kevin Brock, former Assistant Director of Intelligence for the FBI, former Principal Deputy Director of the National Counterterrorism Center, joins us again. Kevin, thanks for being with us.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Dan and Amy. And I just want to point out I'm here this morning because I didn't want to be held in contempt of the morning answer.
Right. It's cultural subpoena power that we have, not legal. That's right.
That's right. But I am responsive.
And look, sometimes mistakes will make themselves under your name, but that doesn't mean you're responsible, just like Jim Comey.
Oh, you notice the tone of his voice there is just dismissive. Matter of fact, of course mistakes are made. I mean, no big deal. Small mistakes are made. No, he and McCabe and Strzok and others conspired to deny the civil rights of Americans who didn't deserve to be investigated by the FBI. Number one, they made up the investigation out of thin air, and then secondly, defrauded a federal court, FISA court, in seeking aggressively electronic surveillance of a Trump campaign worker, Carter Page. Durham pointed out that Jim Comey was behind pushing that aggressively behind the scenes. Let's go, let's get this thing going. They had one motivation alone, and that was to make sure that Donald Trump didn't become president of the United States. Well, they were dead set out. They were going to misuse the powers of the FBI to make that happen.
Well, who got to Comey, though? Or was it just Comey's political belief that he would do anything to take down Trump?
I believe so. And, from his statements, even before he was fired, but certainly afterwards, his animus towards Donald Trump is clear. And now he's, as you say, on this rehabilitation tour because he's worried. The Durham before was very damning to him damning to his career as an ethics professor of all things at Columbia.
Sure.
He's
got novelist.
He's got his a novelist and Twitter dreamer. He's got this book, A Higher Loyalty that he's pushing out there. And this is a little bit of a sign of a desperation. Just dismissive and move on. Nothing to see here. No, there's a lot to see, and I have called for an investigation of those individuals for violating, Title 18, Section 242, federal statute, using the color of law to abuse the rights of an American citizen.
Yeah, and I know you talk to, and we've had this conversation before. You talk to a lot of former FBI officials, colleagues of yours, and I wonder. I know they were. You characterized the people, at least you talked to, as upset about what the agency had become under Comey and McCabe, maybe what the agency still is under Wray. But and we've had some whistleblowers come forward. But I mean, where do things stand internally at the FBI? Do you think? Because I know Wray and Comey are doing the he's an honorable man, Mark Antony business here, back and forth to sort of cover each other's ass. But where do you think things stand internally with the rank and file that we're supposed to default to all the time?
What I'm hearing is current FBI under Wray's leadership, there is concern about a hyper focus on social justice issues and funding of those at the expense of investigative imperatives. There is a constant drumbeat of celebrating whatever month is providing things like interpretive dance classes and Are You Happy seminars, and most agents and analysts, if you can't be happy and motivated doing what the FBI is supposed to be doing, then you're in the wrong job. If you have to be counseled on how to be happy, then you should probably move on to and excel elsewhere. I talked to agents. They estimate around 75% of the agent population is concerned about the direction of the FBI. There are some things that Christopher Wray has done that I applaud. His stance towards the national security threat of China is solid. I believe his response to the subpoena, which we can talk about, and I'm sure you're going to tee up here, was appropriate, even though all of us would like to see some fire attached to the smoke surrounding the Bidens and their influence peddling. So there is a morale issue right now.
On the Hunter Biden investigation, I mean, you just can't. I just can't take Christopher Wray at face value with anything, because he stonewalls, he deflects, he dissembles. This thing has been going on for a long time. You had an agent accused of trying to spike the investigation into the laptop. You get middling answers about the investigation and sort of any frame on that investigation. And so how are we to believe? Well, why should we believe anything other than, yeah, everybody in D.C. is working their best to run out the clock or otherwise provide themselves more time and figure out what they'll do or not do after 2024. But everything is not on a law and order timeline going where the facts lead. Everything is on a political timeline.
Yeah, that's a legitimate concern, Dan, especially under this DOJ, which has made it clear that they're making prosecutive decisions based on political agendas, and that's disturbing. It shouldn't be that way, but that's kind of the way it is right now. So, Chairman Comer's concern is a legitimate one. If there's information out there that implicates the Bidens in some type of a bribery, quid pro quo bribery, then is the FBI taking steps to investigate that? That should have been his question. That should have been the briefing behind closed doors. Subpoenaing a standalone source report, a 1023 form, which just regurgitates raw reporting from a confidential human source, it would not have been the best strategy that I would have advised him to pursue, because you give the FBI a legitimate claim to say we can't provide that, and here's why. And I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate because I know everybody wants to know what's in that document, and as do I. I would love to see the Bidens brought to justice for just their influence peddling, not let alone an actual bribe. But this is a dangerous document. The Bureau gets hundreds of these from citizens and from sources implicating famous people every day in nefarious things, including congressmen participating in drugs, prostitution, child pornography, and even bribery. But those things usually pan out to be not true because people have access to grind, or they got a political agenda that they're pursuing and that type of thing. So if Chairman Comer, if there was a source report out there saying that he was, involved in prostitution, would he want that subpoenaed and made public? Probably not.
Yeah, but here's the problem with that in the modern context. The problem with it, as you're right, sort of like I don't know if a rival campaign cooks up a dossier and then you make that public. That's the kind of thing that shouldn't happen, right? It shouldn't happen, but of course that precedent has been set now. And so, so I want the document, because I know I'm not going to get anything substantive from you. So I want the document so I can wave it around, so we can investigate it, so we can, get some more air out of this specific allegation that was made by this specific whistleblower. And, and then we'll do our Adam Schiff routine. We'll go on our comm channels and say, we're working on it. We're getting there. It's close. We've got a smoking gun that we'll reveal at some point. Well, turnabout is fair play. And then the situation just continues to disintegrate more rapidly because, you can blame the politicians doing tit for tat, but you also blame Christopher Wray for not being an honest broker.
So what we're watching play out is a sumo wrestling match between the legislative and the executive branch at its core. Who's going to win? If the decision is made that it is more important to have this information made public so that Congress can use it for its political aims, okay, that's fine. But just understand, the pursuit of the Bidens through the justice system, filing charges, indictments, convicting, and putting behind bars goes away.
Yeah, but nobody believes it's coming. Nobody believes it's coming under this administration. So we might as well prosecute the thing politically until, and if it happens someday, there's a Justice Department that is interested in law enforcement.
If that is the view that holds sway, then that's where we'll go. Mm-hmm. But my point is, just understand that making public that document will prejudice the case. It will hand the Biden defense team, all kinds of ammunition for getting this dismissed if it gets that far.
Yeah.
I understand your point. It may not get that far under the Merrick Garland DOJ, but as long as we go into this with eyes wide open, this is where we're heading right now.
I hear you. I hear it's not the place I want it to be, but we have an FBI that won't tell us whether or not they were involved in agitating people who behaved badly on January 6th. We have an FBI that obviously perpetrated and continues to perpetrate in the form of Jim Comey a hoax on the American people that was an attempt to take down a president, as you properly said. We have just more things piling in every day now that more of this January 6th video is being released. Going back to that, John Solomon over at Just the News, video of Nancy Pelosi where she, after having done her Joan of Arc routine, having to evacuate, life in danger, so on and so forth, and now we get security footage that shows her exit being potentially staged with her daughter, the documentarian, filming her departure with security officers to guide her through a corridor. And it just doesn't have the same sort of urgency or threat level that it was characterized as having. I mean, all this stuff comes across as these agencies at the upper echelons perpetrating fraud after fraud against their political enemies.
Strong point.
Well,
absolutely.
And then didn't James Comey, once he had the dossier, I do recall he went to the Trump Tower, knowing that it was fake, went to the Trump Tower and told candidate Trump at the time that there was an investigation going on. Isn't that in a form of intimidation?
Well, he tried to intimidate his way all along. I mean, you're right. He went and said, we've got this unverified salacious report, which he gleefully then used in an affidavit for FISA application before the court. When on March 20th, 2017, when Comey, still director, testified before Congress and said, I have gotten permission, wink, wink, from Department of Justice to make public the fact that we have an investigation into the Trump campaign. He did that as an insurance policy, thinking that, okay, well, now there's no way they can get rid of me because it would look like, they're getting rid of me because we have this investigation going. Well, that didn't work out very well for him.
In jail.
It worked out right, and it worked out longer for Comey than it should have. Kevin Brock, former assistant director of Intel for the FBI, former principal deputy director of the National Counterterrorism Center as well. Kevin, thanks as always. Appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
If you're talking about it, Dan and Amy are talking about it. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.